To our next lesson, we're going to be finding angle measures given the sine, cosine, and tangent. Okay, if you know the sine, cosine, or tangent ratio of any angle, you can use the inverse of the function. It's going to be sine to the -1, cosine to the -1, tan to the -1 to find the measure of the angle. Okay, so if the sine of theta is equal to x, to find what theta is, remember theta is your acute angle. What you can do to find theta is you can take your inverse function and multiply it times x, which is, x of course is sine. If cosine of theta equals x, to find theta, which is your acute angle, you can take the inverse of cosine and multiply it times x, which is what cosine of theta is equal to. If tangent of theta is equal to x, to find theta, then what you want to do is multiply the inverse of tangent times x. So all of these are inverse functions. We're going from the sine, cosine, and tangent back to the acute angle theta. Now on a calculator, your inverse functions are above your sine, cosine, and tangent. You see how you have sine and then that -1 power. Here's the -1 for cosine and here's the -1 for tangent. Okay, those are usually found with secant and sine, secant and cosine, secant and tangent. Now we use these to go from the sine, cosine, and tangent back to the angle measure. So we're looking for our angle here, okay, what its actual value is. So let's see what we have here. Here's my angle theta. What we want to do is figure out what 8 and 14 are in relation to theta. So I see that this side right here is my hypotenuse. So I'm missing my hypotenuse. So that if I'm missing my hypotenuse, we're going to use tangent. Okay? So I know that the tangent of theta is equal to the opposite over the adjacent. Okay, so here's theta. Opposite is 8. Adjacent is 14. So that tells me the tangent of theta is 8/14. So that's tangent. That's all well and good, but the problem's not asking me for tangent. The problem is asking me to find the missing angle, and we're going to round to the nearest tenth again. So to go from the tangent back to the angle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the inverse of my tangent, which is 8/14. Okay, so going to a calculator, what I would do, well, it went off, didn't it? Okay, so secant and tangent, that's going to be my inverse of tangent of 8/14. Okay, so I'm just going to do 8 divided by 14 to save me some time. Okay, and that's going to give me 29.7 blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that is going to round up to 29.7. So theta is 29.7. Now remember, theta is an acute angle in my triangle, so it's going to be 29.7 degrees. Let's look at number 8. Okay, here's theta. I'm looking for theta. Let's see what side lengths I'm given. This right here is my hypotenuse, so I'm going to use sine or cosine. Let's see what 38 is in relation to theta. Notice that 38 is adjacent to theta. This is my opposite. So if I have adjacent and I have hypotenuse, I have cosine. So the cosine of theta is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay? To get back to theta, because this is my cosine, I'm wanting to go from cosine back to theta, which is my acute angle in my right triangle. So I'm going to use the inverse function of 38/40. Okay, so let's do secant cosine, and that'll give you your -1, and we're going to do 38/40. 38 divided by 40. That'll give me 18.2. So that's going to be theta is 18.2 degrees. Okay, let's turn the page, see what else we can come up with. Now, I want you to look at number 9 and number 10, and I want you to find out what theta is here and here. Remember, if you don't have a graphing calculator at home, go to Desmos, DESMOS.com. Pause the video and work number 9 and number 10. Okay, welcome back. So here's theta. I notice with theta I have a hypotenuse, so I'm going to use sine or cosine. So let's see what this is in relation to theta. This is actually opposite of theta. So if I have opposite and hypotenuse, that's sine. So the sine of theta is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. So to find what theta is from sine, I'm going to have to use my inverse function. So sine -1 of 17/22. This pen is about to bite the dust. Okay, so let's do second sine. So I'll get my inverse function of 17/22. That's going to give me 50.6. Okay, so when I do my 50.6, don't forget this is an angle. So it's going to be theta is equal to 50.6 degrees. Now look at number 10. Here's theta. This is a hypotenuse, isn't it? So 11 in relation to theta is going to be an adjacent. So I have an adjacent and a hypotenuse, which is cosine. So the cosine of theta is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So that's what cosine is. But again, we're not looking for cosine, we're looking for theta. So let's find the inverse. Theta is equal to the inverse of 11/48. So right here, second cosine of 11/48. That's going to give us 76.8. Don't forget, this is degrees. So theta is equal to 76.8 degrees. And so this pen has died just in time. Okay? If you have any questions, send me a message and I'll be glad to help you out.